Have you ever found yourself exploding with anger over a careless remark, as if someone had struck an old wound? Or felt a deep loneliness despite being surrounded by friends, as though no one truly recognizes the scared little soul inside? Those overpowering reactions, that sudden loneliness, these moments are not born of your mature self, but are the whispers of your inner child, the vulnerable you of long ago, still waiting to be understood. Your inner child is the repository of your earliest memories, emotions, and beliefs. Every laugh, every tear, every scolding, every embrace from your childhood was logged in that tender heart, shaping how you see yourself and the world. That child doesn't vanish when you become an adult. Instead, they remain, tucked away in your subconscious, guiding your fears, your joys, and the deepest choices you make. Few admit this truth. Those early experiences don't just fade, they embed themselves in your emotional wiring. A single comment left unhealed can bloom into chronic self-doubt. Repeated criticism can forge a paralysis of fear around any hint of failure. Your inner child, once hurt, erects defenses that later erupt as anger, sadness, or avoidance, sometimes at the slightest provocation. Imagine trying to build a sturdy house on cracked foundations. No matter how grand the walls, a small tremor, a harsh word, a lonely night can split those cracks wide open and bring the whole structure crumbling down. You might achieve every goal, even win praise, yet inside you still feel unsettled, uncertain, as though something vital remains broken. Here is the hopeful secret. You can heal your inner child. You can offer that injured part of yourself the unconditional love and protection it never received. You can whisper, "I see your pain. I understand your scars. You are safe now." This is the core of the inner child transformation secret, a journey back to your roots, where old wounds are cradled in compassion and dissolved by the warmth of self-acceptance. In this session, we will explore who your inner child really is and what it most deeply needs from you, the subtle signs that your inner child is still hurting, and how to recognize them in everyday life. Most importantly, the practical steps you can take right now to begin this miraculous healing, from pausing to truly listen to yourself, to wrapping that inner child in comfort, to reclaiming the playful spirit that once lit up your world. This is not a fragmented path, but a seamless flow of understanding and transformation. When you allow every sorrow to be seen and every fear to be voiced, you free yourself from old chains and step forward with an open heart. Prepare yourself now to embark upon this wondrous journey, where you stop being a passenger of your past and become the guide of your own soul. You've placed your hand over your heart and closed your eyes, wondering, beneath the armor of my rational mind, deep in my chest, is there a small unseen being crying out for attention? This entity, the inner child, is the purest, most unguarded part of your psychological energy, formed in the cradle of your earliest years. From the moment you took your first breath, your tender psyche began recording every inaugural moment. Your mother's warm smile, your father's gentle touch, the lullabies that soothed your first steps, the exhilarating rush of discovery with every new sound, every trip and fall followed by a helping hand. All these impressions, both joyful and painful, were etched into that inner child, like entries in an unconscious journal, unfiltered by judgment or analysis. Yet it wasn't only delight that it recorded, it also stored the wounds of childhood, the pinch of a scolding cheek when you made a mess, the sting of harsh words when you broke a cherished vase, the disappointed look at an average test score, the loud reprimand for drawing on the walls, and the hollow ache when a parent hurried away without a proper farewell. As a child, you had no framework to distinguish right from wrong. You simply felt safety and love, or their absence in stark relief. As you grew, your intellect matured, teaching you to stifle tears, to force smiles, to bury those raw feelings. Yet the inner child remains ever restless. The slightest harsh word can trigger a wave of panic, a flash of anger, or a flood of tears. That timid voice inside still craves understanding, reassurance, and unconditional acceptance. Your inner child isn't some separate persona you might glimpse in a mirror. It's the wellspring of your earliest emotions, an undercurrent that runs parallel to your logical mind, hidden deep in the subconscious. Picture it as a small, clear pond within your soul. Its surface may seem calm, but below, sediments of old pain swirl and stir, ready to rise whenever the water's surface is disturbed. The inner child plays a vital role in your life. It encodes how you first perceived yourself and the world around you. If it was nurtured, it imprints a belief that you deserve love and protection. If it was neglected or chastised, it leaves a conviction that I am not good enough. If it was encouraged to explore, it sparks a lifelong curiosity. If it was confined, it begets lifelong fears, making you cautious when opportunity knocks. Today, we refer to that spontaneous insight as intuition, our survival instincts, or inner voice. When you feel inexplicably anxious in a social setting, or panic at the idea of rejection, or lash out at an innocuous remark, that is your inner child crying out, "Please see me. Please hear me. Please keep me safe." So who is this inner child? It is the 3-year-old, 6-year-old, or 10-year-old you who trembled at harsh words, who beamed with pride at a compliment, who longed for unconditional love and security. It is not some ghost of your past, but the emotional foundation you carry with you, infusing every heartbeat, every decision, every relationship you forge. Recall the last time you felt pure delight, perhaps the first golden rays of sunrise, when you were small, when worries didn't yet exist. Remember the last time your heart broke the echo of a reprimand, the flash of disappointment, the searing pain of failure. Those memories still live within you, no matter how accomplished or composed you appear today. Those very emotions, whether clear or obscured, shape the person you are now. Your career, your relationships, your life choices all bear the fingerprints of that inner spark. When it is filled with doubt, it casts a shadow of insecurity over every triumph. When it is nurtured and healed, it radiates courage, joy, and a deep sense of worth. You have now stepped into your own inner garden, where blossoms of joy mingle with petals of old sorrow. The first step is to notice, to acknowledge, and to listen to your inner child. Give it voice. Sit quietly. Place a hand on your heart. Breathe deeply and gently say, "I see you. You are not alone." Identifying your inner child is not a mere abstraction, but the bravest act of self-care you can undertake. When you recognize that your irrational fears, your emotional outbursts, and your deepest hungers trace back to childhood, you empower yourself to begin true healing. As you see this tender self with fresh eyes, you also gain insight into your own internal mechanics. You begin to understand why a minor rejection can knock you off balance, why achievements never quite fill you, why that empty ache persists. That is the authentic story of your soul's tapestry, woven from the threads of early emotion, just awaiting your love and attention to shine once more. Beneath the surface of every adult lies a child whose experiences, both joyous and painful, continue to echo through each decision and emotion. These echoes can be traced back to countless subtle wounds, far more pervasive and insidious than the headline-making traumas we often imagine. In Part B, we delve into those everyday hurts that shape the inner child's narrative and color the canvas of your present life. Consider the child who sits quietly at the edge of the playground, watching others run and laugh. Perhaps no one ever invited that child to join, not from malice, but from oversight. In that moment, a seed of "I don't belong" was planted. Decades later, that same child, now grown, might shy away from social gatherings, convinced they are somehow not worthy of inclusion, even among friends. Think of the child who eagerly shows a hand-drawn picture to a parent, only to be met with a distracted nod or an impatient glance. The parent's intention was not cruelty, merely preoccupation, yet the child internalizes a message. My creations aren't important enough to deserve attention. That child then grows into an adult, unwilling to share their work or ideas, plagued by a chronic fear that no one will care. Then there is the child whose voice is stifled by constant criticism. Why can't you be more like your brother? Or by an environment that rewards achievement over emotional expression. Tears are brushed away. Don't be silly, toughen up. Over time, emotional expression is learned to be dangerous. That child becomes an adult who either bottles up every feeling until it explodes, or who forgets how to feel deeply at all. A home filled with tension and raised voices imprints a fear of conflict that lasts a lifetime. The child who instinctively flinched at every raised hand and sudden shout learns to either avoid disagreements entirely, silently stewing in resentment, or to lash out preemptively at the slightest sign of strife. Even the simplest dispute, who takes the last slice of pizza, can trigger door slams of emotion inherited from childhood. On the flip side are the wounds born of neglect masked as independence. The child told to be a big boy or be a strong girl when they needed comfort instead, learns self-sufficiency at the cost of intimate bonds. That child blossoms into an adult who shuns closeness, fearing the vulnerability that comes with true connection, yet secretly aching for the intimacy they were taught to reject. No single moment defines these wounds, rather they accrue in the quiet spaces of daily life. A teacher's shrug, a parent's delayed response, a game not chosen, a tear ignored, all weave into a tapestry of conditional love and unmet need. When the inner child feels perpetually not enough, it reacts by either striving for impossible perfection or by resigning in a paradoxical blend of complacency and fear. Yet acknowledging these common wounds is the first step toward liberation. As you recognize that your overwork, your emotional shutdown, your people-pleasing, or your constant anxiety are not flaws, but signals from an aching inner child, you gain the power to respond differently. You learn to gift yourself what was withheld before: a compassionate ear, a gentle embrace, a safe haven for tears and laughter alike. In recognizing the everyday wounds that linger from childhood, you transform your relationship with yourself. You move from being a passive victim of old pain to becoming a loving guardian of your own heart's tenderest part. Only then can you begin the real journey of healing, one that honors every cut and scar and nurtures the inner child back to flourishing health. In the journey of uncovering your inner child, there comes a critical stage that everyone must pause to examine, recognizing the deep-seated wounds embedded in that tender soul of your early years. These scars need not stem from dramatic catastrophes. Often they arise from countless repeated moments, powerful enough to instill in a child the beliefs, "I'm not good enough," or "the world isn't safe." Sometimes the wound is the feeling of abandonment. Perhaps your mother came home late from work, leaving you anxiously waiting alone in an empty room. or your parents separated, and you suddenly realized you no longer had a safe haven. That child learned to lock away loneliness in a deep chamber of the heart, believing that the embrace of love could vanish at any moment. Even a single episode of physical or emotional neglect, though infrequent, cuts like a silent blade, planting the question, will anyone truly stay with me? Criticism and public shaming can inflict equally lasting pain. Imagine a little girl whose every test score is compared unfavorably to her neighbors. Why can't you be more like her? Each comparison sprinkles salt on the wound of self-esteem, teaching her that no effort is ever enough. Or picture a boy who, whenever he fell down, was met not with comfort but with a harsh, "Stop crying like a baby." So he learned to stifle tears, to lock away all feeling only to become, as an adult, someone unable to share either joy or sorrow, terrified of emotional expression. Even more extreme is the abuse, physical, emotional, or sexual, that a child can suffer. A sudden slap, a harsh scolding, or a violation of personal boundaries all plant seeds of terror, destroying a child's basic trust in adults. While the physical wounds may heal, the emotional scars can fester lifelong shame. What did I do wrong? Or why didn't anyone save me? Those questions echo through the years. A subtler wound lies in emotional neglect, being unheard and misunderstood. When you excitedly share a dream and receive only a dismissive, "That's silly," you learn that your inner life is unimportant. As you grow, you doubt the value of your own feelings, suppressing them to avoid ridicule, only to become an adult constantly second-guessing every thought, too ashamed to speak your heart. Perfectionism can likewise cripple a child's spirit. A student repeatedly praised only when achieving top marks learns that anything less is failure. The pressure to be perfect becomes a straitjacket, crushing the freedom to make mistakes, to cry, or to just be a child. Later in life, that perfectionism morphs into paralysis. The fear of not being good enough prevents you from taking any new steps. Finally, growing up in an unsafe environment exposed to domestic violence, constant quarrels, or parental substance abuse leaves a child in a state of perpetual alarm. Imagine a girl lying awake at night, heart pounding with every shouted argument between her parents. In adulthood, the slightest loud noise can send her into panic. Or a boy compelled to fend for himself when his caregivers are absent in body or mind. He matures into an adult, always ready to flee at the first sign of conflict, never fully trusting any place as home. All these wounds, big or small, share a common thread: repetition. It's not a single event but an ongoing pattern, a teacher's shrug, a parent's delayed response, a game not offered, a tear ignored that teaches the inner child, don't expect care, don't trust anyone, you must fend for yourself. These beliefs hardwire into neural pathways that direct your emotions, the fight, flight, or freeze responses you feel today. Yet bringing these wounds into awareness isn't an exercise in self-flagellation, it's an act of compassion. When you identify the common injuries: abandonment, criticism, abuse, emotional neglect, perfection pressure, unsafe surroundings, you hold the key to unlocking that wounded inner child. You recognize that your anger outbursts, emotional numbness, fear of loneliness, or obsession with achievement aren't flaws, but the quiet cries of a child longing for comfort. Consider the woman who, whenever she had to go to a doctor alone, felt her chest tighten at the sterile white walls, and the nurse's indifferent glance, memories of being neglected as a child. Or the man who, despite career success, felt an emptiness gnawing at him because he'd grown up in a home that never celebrated his small victories. These stories illustrate how everyday wounds, mere moments of neglect or criticism, cast long shadows over adult life. Only by bravely facing each wound, by naming it, feeling it, and embracing it, can you begin to heal. As you shine the light of your awareness on each vulnerable spot, you allow the inner child room to breathe, to feel safe, and to grow. That's when the process of restoration truly begins, replacing old pain with new strength and filling your life with the unconditional love you always deserved. Have you ever found yourself suddenly exploding in anger over a casual remark, or bursting into tears at someone's glance? That's not a loss of self-control. It's a clear sign your inner child is calling out, its childhood wounds still unhealed. When you trace today's emotions back to those early memories, you realize every outburst and every pang of fear has its roots in a childhood scar. First, consider how you react to small situations. A mild disagreement, a differing opinion, or even an unread message can ignite anger, disappointment, or sudden sadness. That's your defense mechanism at work, akin to the child who was scolded for raising their hand in class, or punished for crying out loud. Your emotional backbone still trembles whenever that old injury reopens. Difficulty trusting others is another expression of inner wounds. When you hesitate to share secrets, are wary of new relationships, or constantly question the motives of friends and family, chances are you once felt abandoned when you most needed comfort, or you were never truly heard. Your inner child learned early on that trust is dangerous, so you build walls now hospitable on the surface, yet perpetually on guard within. Next, the feeling of not being good enough, insecurity, and fear of judgment shadows your accomplishments. Even when you succeed, you wonder, do they really appreciate me? That is the echo of a little one who was compared unfavorably to classmates or chastised for average test scores. The belief I am never enough became ingrained, leading you to constantly judge yourself harshly. The drive to please others can become an overlearned habit. You say yes to tasks, not because you want to, but because you fear disappointing someone. You force a smile when you're exhausted. You agree to demands even when your heart says no. Your inner child, once comforted only when compliant, still craves unconditional acceptance, offering obedience in exchange. Fear of abandonment and loneliness shapes every relationship. You might chase after love, worry when a partner spends time with friends, or text obsessively to ensure they remember you. That's the same child who waited by the door for parents who never came home, or who felt left out when classmates played without inviting them in. Difficulty setting personal boundaries is another sign you carry a childhood scar. You struggle to say no and protect your own space, allowing work and obligations to consume every free moment. That stems from a child forced into endless homework or punished for not obeying. Learning to endure rather than speak up and carrying that compulsion into adulthood. Procrastination and avoidance reflect a deep-seated fear of failure. A child terrified of being called out in class grew into an adult who delays tasks at the slightest hint of criticism. That childhood anxiety still whispers, "Better not try at all than risk failing." Many seek solace in unhealthy behaviors, overeating to numb sorrow, binging TV shows to escape emptiness, workaholism, or substance use to dull old pains. These are ways the inner child tries to soothe itself, even at the cost of health and balance. Finally, a persistent, inexplicable anxiety can haunt you. Despite outward stability, your heart races at the thought of being alone or hearing unsettling news about a loved one. That's the alarm bell from the past. A child who never knew what would happen next, never felt a complete sense of safety. Now take a quiet moment to ask yourself, which of these signs feels most familiar? Which wounds remain hidden in my heart's blind spots? By answering honestly, you take the first crucial step on the path to healing, ensuring your inner child no longer cries out in silence. Imagine pausing in the midst of your hectic day, placing a hand over your heart, and whispering to yourself, "There's a little child inside me who has never truly been seen or healed." That moment marks the beginning of a powerful journey, the healing and transformation of your inner child. By acknowledging that tender, vulnerable part of yourself, you step across the threshold where real change can begin. First, give yourself permission to feel. Say quietly, "I have an inner child, and it has been hurt." This acknowledgement isn't self-blame, it's an act of self-compassion, affirming your right to fully experience loneliness, fear, pain, or sadness. No matter how accomplished you are today, whether a parent, a leader, or an expert, that child remains, craving warmth and acceptance. A single careless remark can still reopen old wounds. So instead of pushing away these feelings, pause, open your heart, and tell yourself, "I see your pain." Next, carve out quiet space to really listen. One morning before the world rushes in, sit still, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and picture yourself gently beside the little boy or girl you once were, shivering at harsh words. You might write in a journal as if speaking to a child. What makes you sad? What scares you? What do you need? Or simply murmur, "I'm here, I'm listening. What would you like to share?" When you ask and truly listen without judgment, without trying to fix anything, those hidden needs gradually surface, revealing your deepest fears and desires for love. Once you've heard that voice, the next step is empathy. Recall the little you who once flew into a rage out of fear of losing something precious, who curled up in terror at the thought of being abandoned, who forced a smile to hide inner sorrow. Understand that every overreaction you experience today is that inner child's way of self-protecting, shaped by past hardships. Instead of reproaching yourself, "Why do I keep overreacting?" say, "I know you were hurt, and now you're simply doing your best to protect us." With warm compassion, you become your own best parent. You offer your inner child unconditional safety and affection, a word of encouragement when you trip, an imagined hug when your heart is afraid. Each morning, look in the mirror and affirm, "I'm proud of you. You deserve love." Though simple, these words carry immense healing power, nurturing that fragile spirit toward peace. Protecting your inner child also means setting healthy boundaries. That boundary is not just a no to others when you're overwhelmed, but a no to yourself when you're tempted to overwork or stay in toxic relationships. For example, if a colleague sends an urgent request on your day off, take a breath and respond, "I'm sorry, I can't help today." In doing so, you safeguard your rest time and reassure your inner child that its need for downtime is respected. Another vital component is inner child care. Allow yourself to indulge in activities you loved as a child, painting, singing loudly, dancing freely, collecting a smooth pebble, or strolling hand in hand with your inner child through a leafy park. Create a joy list of simple pleasures: baking cookies, building with Lego, reading comic books, or watching raindrops race down a window pane. Each of these moments is a balm for your soul, renewing the carefree spirit you once knew. If you uncover deeper wounds that meditation or journaling alone can't heal, don't hesitate to seek professional support. Walking into a therapist's office and sharing your unspoken memories is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous step. A skilled therapist can guide you through techniques to release pent-up emotions, reframe old beliefs, and equip you with ongoing tools to nurture your inner child. Above all, recognize that this journey has no overnight finish line. Some days you'll see your inner child blossom with joy. Other days, old fears may resurface. Each time this happens, treat it as an opportunity to take another step, pause, listen, comfort, and heal. One day, you'll discover that your inner child's voice is no longer a silent cry, but a harmonious melody intertwined with your mature wisdom, warm and grounded. The journey of healing and transforming your inner child is a pledge to yourself. You deserve unconditional love, true safety, and boundless joy. When you become the compassionate parent to your own heart, you not only erase the pain of the past, but unlock a brighter, more vibrant future filled with vitality and purpose. Keep moving forward. Don't be afraid to listen, to love, because inside you, a little boy or girl still dreams of the day they can soar freely. As we look back on our journey through the landscape of the inner child, we've paused at countless moments, from recognizing that playful child buried in our subconscious, to spotting the red flags of wounding sudden outbursts of anger, fears of abandonment, nagging feelings of not good enough, endless people-pleasing, boundaries crossed and blurred, avoidance behaviors, and fleeting comforts that never truly satisfy. We then walk through the key healing steps, acknowledging the wounds, listening deeply, offering compassion, becoming our own gentle parent, setting safe boundaries, nurturing our inner child, and when needed, seeking professional support. What you take with you is not just a checklist of techniques, but a liberating truth. Healing the inner child isn't about erasing the past. It's learning to embrace the past with love, and then allowing your adult self the freedom to live fully in the present. You don't need to discard those shattered fragments of memory or erase what's gone by. You only need to gaze at them with kindness, patiently whisper reassurance, and hold both your pain and joys with equal tenderness. When your inner child is healed, something magical happens. Fears begin to soften, confidence kindles like a warm flame, and you reconnect with your creativity and intuitive wisdom. You'll notice fresh ideas sprouting, find solutions to previously stuck problems, and greet new opportunities with excitement rather than stiff resistance. This is your untapped potential, a reservoir of positive energy, waiting to burst forth once old emotional barriers fall away. This journey demands patience and self-compassion. Healing rarely happens overnight, and neither you nor anyone else must shoulder the burden alone. Each small step, every moment you dare to face and comfort your inner child, is a victory. Begin today with one simple act. Set aside a few quiet minutes. Place your hand over your heart and softly ask, "What do you need from me right now?" It might be a word of comfort, a deep sigh of relief, an imagined embrace, or simply permission to feel sadness, fear, or joy without hiding it. Listen closely, for that gentle reply becomes the beacon guiding your next choice. And finally, always remember, you have the power to transform old wounds into strength. Those scars are not marks of weakness, but proof of your courage, your resilience, your capacity to rise. You are not alone on this path. Millions of hearts are learning to stitch themselves back together too. Love your inner child, for by treating that vulnerable self with respect and tenderness, you give yourself wings to soar higher and steadier across life's skies. When you do, your life will change in the most miraculous ways. You'll awaken each morning with a peaceful heart. Each step will feel like a song of freedom and creativity, and you will know yourself as the true author of your life story, your inner child healed and ready to write bright new chapters. wishing you a healing journey filled with love and wholeness.